So rather than saying a certain thing should happen with respect to zoning, what we ended up saying is, here's a process we should use in the future to evaluate zoning amendments, that kind of thing. And I don't know that this town is governable in that way, because we have a lot of smart people with a lot of great ideas, and it's very hard for an abstract plan to deal with possibilities in the future. So I much prefer, in terms of getting public support and direction, to have real plans to work with from a proponent, either a developer or even the town itself. I think it's much easier for town meeting to deal with a tangible proposal than an abstract concept. Certainly easier for me.
So I think it'd be interesting to just take a look at what the comprehensive long-range plan was. So at the annual town meeting in March of 2006, the planning board was charged with making a comprehensive long-range plan. It was the planning board that was asked to do this for the town of Lincoln. Such a plan is designed to provide the basis for guidance, coordination, and accountability to future decision makers regarding the long-term physical development of the community. The planning board, with the input of other boards and commissions, appointed a comprehensive long-range plan committee, CLRPC, another 5-letter acronym for those of you who are tracking. And after 3.5 years of work by nearly 80 people, plus the help of a consultant, Lincoln's comprehensive plan was accepted by the planning board and town meeting in 2009. At that time, I think the expectation of town meeting was that something would be done with the comprehensive long-range plan. But, and I mark it a failure of leadership, that there was no real follow-up to that plan. I feel we do need a comprehensive long-range plan, and that it should be paid attention to. Absent planning, the town of Lincoln is simply going to be like a ship in a storm without rudders or sails, and will soon find itself on the rocks. And the weather is looking stormy. So I think we should do a comprehensive long-range plan or redo one. And I think this time we should pay attention to it.
Thank you, Rick.
Sharon, may I interject something?
Okay.
I remember quite vividly the debate at town meeting when the plan was presented, and there was, I'd say, a half an hour of questioning by the town meeting. Are we accepting the content of this plan, or are we just accepting it for filing? And I remember town council saying that you're not endorsing the content of the plan. It's 400 pages long, and so essentially all we're doing is asking for an administrative action for you to make this part of the town meeting record. So at this point, yeah, we have guidance. It was certainly approved by the planning board, but really the decisions were essentially, the hard decisions were not made at that point, and they remain on the table and really are amenable only to, I believe, tangible proposals that are presented to the town.
Okay, thank you for that, Bob. I don't know enough about it. So, so anyway, so that ends the questions that we had. I had been given in advance. Now, and again, thank you. This is great, and you guys are. I'm sure it's a little stressful. The next question that we have came to me in the chat room, and it's totally different from any of the other questions. I don't 100% understand it. I'm hoping you guys that are candidates for planning board members will. The Lincoln bylaw allows farm animals, parentheses livestock, on residential property by right. This is in direct conflict with state law, which requires Board of Health approval to keep livestock on any property. Only a tiny minority of Lincoln property owners desire to keep livestock on their property. How can the planning board continue to justify violating the state constitutional rights of the vast majority of Lincoln property owners who have limited right under the Lincoln bylaws as abutters, and bestows a waiver from state law to the tiny minority of livestock owners? Will the planning board willingly ever revisit this bylaw right? Bob, you get to start on that one.
Well, I remember all the discussions between the planning board and the agricultural commission going back to the days when we were declared a farm-friendly town, or words to that effect. I don't remember this issue ever coming up, so I'm going to plead ignorance. But it's an interesting issue. I don't know if it truly is a constitutional issue or a Board of Health issue. I just don't know. So I'm going to plead ignorance on that one, but I'd find it interesting to look at.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Well, it sounds like someone may have found an interesting twist of the regulatory framework, and be worth checking that out. But I like Bob, I've never heard this particular case brought forward, and we've talked about the Lincoln's character as a farming community and how that is difficult in some cases depending on abutters, and generally I think that the character of Lincoln as a rural community is dependent on having a farming and agricultural culture here in town. So, but yeah, I guess pleading ignorance as well. Lynn, what do you know about this?
So, I don't know the town, I mean, the state rules exactly. I haven't read them about farming, but if this is a concern that a resident has, this is a very good example of how we should work as representatives of people of the town. If this person has a concern about livestock on property and brings it to me, I will bring it to the planning board, and believe me, I will look up the laws of the state and read through our bylaws once more and see if it is in conflict, and I will bring it up at the planning board and we'll discuss it, and we'll have the people who are concerned about it present, and we'll do something about it. I mean, it's just an example of anything that may come up of concern to residents.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question that I have, and it may be the last one we can take, because then we still have to do your closing statements, and we promised 8:15 hard shut off. So the last question is, again, totally different. It is, in your role as a part of the town system, how will you support eliminating structural racism? And Rick, you get to go first on this one.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, this is, I've been involved now in a number of communities in this conversation, particularly the community of the company that I work for. And we're having, I'm going to be right up front. I'm going to say this is a hard question. I don't really know exactly what to do about it. So what I've been doing and what I've been encouraging other people to do is to listen to the stories that people are sharing of what their experiences are that are different from what the majority of people in Lincoln probably experience, and appreciate that experience, and then consider how things that may feel like just the way things have always been really don't need to be that way. Mm-hmm. One area of this that I don't know that the planning board or I can do anything about, but the way that public schools are funded in this country is a form of structural racism. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it would be interesting to understand how that could be changed. So there's my yellow card. I really appreciate that question, and Sharon, thank you for surfacing that one.
Yeah, that was a great question. Okay, thank you, Brett. And Lynn?
I think as a town and as a community and in neighborhoods, we have to be discussing this issue. I have to agree with Rick on this. I don't know the answer, but I'm hearing things. I have nightmares about that knee video which is so horrible. It doesn't matter what race you are. It just puts chills through you to have seen it. And to hear what people have experienced for their lifetime, you know, I haven't experienced those things. And I need to listen to the other people. That's all I can say. I think we need a lot of dialogue and listening.
Thank you, Lynn and Bob.
Yeah, people think of the planning board as dealing with land and buildings, but it's actually a profoundly human enterprise, I think. And I've always found it fascinating because it's dealing with how people deal with each other as good neighbors, and it deals with the environment, which I always think of as a stakeholder in the outcome of anything we look at. In terms of systemic racism, again, so difficult, and what power does a tiny town like Lincoln have to change behavior even beyond its own border or within its border? I think the only thing we can realistically do is go for diversity of economic opportunity in town and then hope for the best. I think, you know, we have tremendous Metro representation, but do those folks end up living here? I've never heard of that happening. So maybe we got to look at that. Maybe they don't want to live here. That's another possibility too. You know, big question. It's way above my pay grade to solve it. But I think economic opportunity is the best we can reasonably expect to accomplish.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again. This has been really helpful. And now we have to come to a close though. And we didn't talk about who was going to go first in the closing statements. You have, please stay to the 1 minute closing statement. We've got 3 minutes left to close at 8:15. So do you want to go first again, Lynn, or shall we have somebody else go first? Bob, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I think it's disingenuous of the planning board to say that all the zoning work that's gone on for the last year or year and a half was at a subcommittee and that the planning board never approved it. When a subcommittee goes off in a particular direction for that length of time, I think the board needs to realize they own what that subcommittee is doing. This was not a rogue subcommittee. And so I think the board needs to question, how did they misread the character of this town so much that they would work on a proposal that took away town meeting's authority for major developments? End of statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Rick.
Well, I think you've heard from me. I have a professional background that I think is very relevant to the planning board. And I have experience on it, and I remain professionally engaged and out in the world and bring that perspective, which I think is an important perspective to the planning board. My key core values are respect for the past by planning for the future, and integrity and fairness and transparency. So I encourage all of you voters to look at the work, look at today's planning board and how we operate, and put your vote to a forward-looking candidate as opposed to a vote for the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And Lynn.
Okay, so I will start by saying that I have as my motto in this campaign as responsible planning by collaboration with neighborhoods. And that says it all to me. I believe I'm representing the people, and I will continue to represent the people of this town. And I want them to come to me with their concerns, and I will bring them up at the planning board meetings. And I also want to say, Bob, you were wrong about the South Lincoln Committee issue. I had no idea what was going on, or I would have fought it. The first time I heard it was at a public meeting, and I think we can talk about it offline. I don't want to take all my time on that. I think everyone knows my views. I've put them around town in various ways. And please call me if you have any concerns.
Okay, thank you. 8:15, we're on schedule. Thank you again so much. This has been fantastic. I want to make an apology, though. I realized I didn't record the whole thing. I only recorded the end. So I'm glad Alice is here, even more glad than I would have been otherwise, because hopefully she took copious notes and will publish it. I'm really sorry. I didn't get it all. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, everyone. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Stay safe. Bye, Sharon.
Bye.